There are no accidents in the soul's unfolding. That which we call coincidence is merely the visible surface of an invisible necessity. Beneath each encounter lies a secret order, a subtle orchestration, not of logic, but of resonance. The psyche in its depths is not idle. It is ceaselessly moving, drawing to itself images, people, and events that mirror its own unspoken truths. We do not merely meet others, we are summoned to them, and stay to us. The person who earns you, the one who captivates you, the stranger who stirs something forgotten, these are not random fragments in the mosaic of your life. They are answers to questions you did not know you were asking. They come wearing the masks of friend or enemy, lover or rival, but beneath the mask, they carry a message. The unconscious seeks itself through others. This idea, though deceptively simple, lies at the heart of the deepest human experiences. When we encounter another person, we rarely engage only with their surface. Something beneath, something invisible, is always at play. We feel inexplicable attractions, aversions, fascinations, and resistances. We believe we are choosing our relationships consciously, but in truth, much of our relational life is governed by the unconscious. Those unseen forces that shape our behaviors, preferences, and emotional reactions. To understand this, one must begin to grasp that the psyche is not a closed system. It is a field of latent symbols, unresolved tensions, and archetypal images, seeking form, and people become the living vessels through which these inner realities are made visible. The unconscious is not an abyss of disorder, as many might think. It is structured in its own way, deeply symbolic, mythological, and expressive. When a person has not consciously integrated certain aspects of themselves, whether it be anger, desire, fear, or even creative power, those elements do not vanish. They are not erased. Instead, they are projected outward. And the most fertile ground for these projections is other people. A man who cannot see his own controlling tendencies may accuse others of dominance. A woman who disowns her inner strength may be drawn to powerful figures, mistaking admiration for love. These interactions are not accidents. They are the psyche's attempt to see itself, to know itself through reflection. Every encounter becomes a mirror. We do not fall in love randomly, nor do we find enemies by pure coincidence. Behind every connection is a resonance between the inner world and the outer circumstance. What appears to be mere chemistry or clash is often the unconscious, recognizing something familiar in another person, something buried, repressed, or unclaimed. We are pulled toward those who carry fragments of our own soul, whether light or dark. A person who captivates us might be holding the lost parts of ourselves. Someone who irritates us may be triggering an unresolved wound. In this sense, relationships are not just emotional exchanges, they are psychological events, symbolic confrontations with the self. The archetypes within the unconscious have a peculiar autonomy. They do not wait for permission to act. When we encounter someone who evokes a strong response in us, we are not simply reacting to them as they are, but to the archetypal energy they activate in us. Consider the experience of meeting someone who instantly feels familiar, as if you have known them forever. This is not fantasy, nor is it necessarily about past lives or fate. More often, it is the recognition of an inner pattern. The person has activated something latent within you, perhaps the mother archetype, the inner child, the trickster, or the shadow. These patterns are universal, yet they take personal form through our relationships. They reveal themselves in subtle ways through dreams, fantasies, fears, and desires, all of which are stirred into motion by the presence of the other. Even conflict serves this function. Those who provoke us most may be showing us what we have yet to integrate. The person who intimidates you may be reflecting your own disowned confidence. The one who rejects you may expose your unconscious beliefs about worthiness. Through these painful reflections, The unconscious is trying to communicate. It is not punishing you. It is revealing you to yourself. Each encounter becomes a stage upon which the hidden contents of the psyche step into the light, wearing the face of another. There is a particular truth in the idea that we are always in a relationship, not only with others, but with aspects of ourselves projected outward. A person who feels constantly betrayed in relationships may be unaware of how they betray themselves. A person who finds others distant may be projecting their own emotional withdrawal. The world of people becomes a symbolic map of the inner world. To navigate relationships without awareness of this is to walk blindly through one's own psyche, blaming others for what originates within. This is not to say that others are mere illusions or that they have no agency. They are real with their own complex inner lives, but our experience of them is filtered through our unconscious projections, and it is this experience that offers insight. When one begins to notice patterns, recurring types of people, repeated emotional themes, cycles of attraction and rejection, one must ask, what is the common denominator? It is always the self, and the self, seeking wholeness, draws toward itself those who represent the missing or denied pieces of its totality. In this way, no meeting is meaningless. Each one contains a key, an image, or a message from the unconscious, but not everyone receives it. Without self-reflection, the pattern repeats without growth. One may move from relationship to relationship, never realizing that they are being shown the same mirror again and again. The lesson is not to change others, but to interpret what the soul is attempting to express through them. When that interpretation is made, when unconscious content is made conscious, the projection dissolves, and one sees the other more clearly, not as an object of fantasy or fear, but as a fellow traveler on the path of individuation. There are moments when the meeting of two people is so charged, so transformative, that it feels ordained. These are not just coincidences. They are psychological initiations. The unconscious arranges such meetings as thresholds, moments where one's life may split into a before and after. These are the people who awaken us to our own depths, whether by inspiration or heartbreak. They do not come to us because we are ready, but because the psyche demands growth, and growth rarely occurs in comfort. Often it is pain that compels awareness. The suffering that emerges from human connection is not without purpose. It is the price of becoming conscious. To see others as carriers of one's unconscious content is a radical shift. It requires one to take responsibility for their inner world, to view encounters not as random but as revelatory. This approach does not eliminate suffering, but it redeems it. It gives meaning to the patterns of our lives and allows the soul to speak through the language of relationship. Through this lens, even the most difficult encounters become sacred, not because they are pleasant, but because they are true. They carry the truth of the self, hidden, disguised, painful or beautiful, seeking to be known. Energy moves where attention flows. This principle, though seemingly straightforward, governs the unseen architecture of human connection. Every thought, emotion, and intention we harbor radiates outward as a kind of subtle vibration. This vibration interacts with the world in ways we often fail to see, but nevertheless experience. We attract, repel, or resonate with people and events not merely through conscious decisions, but through the energy our inner life emits. Just as a tuning fork will begin to vibrate when brought near another of the same frequency, so too do human beings find themselves mysteriously drawn toward those whose inner states mirror their own, whether openly or in disguise. These resonances are not accidents, they are reflections of our inner focus, our dominant emotional states, and our unconscious expectations. The psyche is not limited to thought. It extends into feeling, into symbolic imagination, and most profoundly into what might be called psychic tone, the energetic imprint we carry with us. If a person is fixated on fear, that fear creates a kind of lens through which they view others, and more subtly, it attracts situations and people who echo that inner condition. This does not mean they cause others to behave in certain ways. Rather, they are unconsciously primed to notice, respond to, and become entangled with those who reflect their emotional preoccupation. If a person carries unresolved wounds of abandonment, for example, their attention may become sensitized to even the slightest cues of withdrawal in others. In doing so, they invite a pattern to repeat, not because they wish to suffer, but because the psyche seeks completion. It wants the loop to close, and so it brings forth what is needed to finish the unfinished narrative. When one becomes aware of this principle that where attention goes, energy follows, one must also confront the responsibility that comes with it. The state of our inner world is not separate from the world we inhabit. We are constantly co-creating the quality of our relationships through the atmosphere we emit. If we are in a state of chronic resentment, the people we meet will unconsciously sense that vibration and respond to it, perhaps defensively or with avoidance, thereby confirming the very emotion that created the interaction. It becomes a feedback loop. Attention becomes reality. The outer begins to reflect the inner so precisely that it is no longer possible to distinguish between what is happening to us and what we are inviting, not with conscious will, but with the gravity of our internal focus. This is not a form of magical thinking. It is not the naive belief that we can simply think our way into paradise. Rather, it is the recognition that the psyche is dynamic. It shapes experience through expectation, mood, and intention. A person who believes they are unworthy of love will not only miss signs of affection, but may find themselves gravitating toward those who confirm their belief. They may reject those who offer genuine connection, not out of malice, but because their energy is so attuned to lack that abundance feels unfamiliar, even threatening. This resonance operates beneath the level of thought. It is intuitive, instinctual, and immediate. We feel it in first impressions, in sudden repulsions, in the unspoken knowing that someone carries something familiar to us, even if we cannot name it. Just as light seeks light, and shadow calls to shadow, the law of resonance orchestrates the meeting of souls. Two people do not find each other simply through logic or chance. They meet because something within each of them vibrates at a similar frequency. This does not mean they are the same on the surface. In fact, often the opposite is true. The law of resonance does not concern itself with appearances. It concerns itself with essence. A deeply repressed emotion in one person may be fully expressed in another, creating a magnetic pole that is as confusing as it is compelling. We are drawn to those who carry what we lack or who illuminate what we hide. Resonance is not comfort, it is recognition. Attention is the instrument by which we tune ourselves to certain experiences. The more we focus on what is missing, the more absence becomes the dominant theme in our interactions. The more we dwell on betrayal, the more we notice betrayal, even where it may not exist. This is not a flaw of the world, but a reflection of our focus. What we repeatedly attend to begins to shape the filter through which we experience reality, and reality in turn responds. It bends subtly to meet our tone. The resonance is mutual. Others too are broadcasting their own energetic signatures. What meets in any relationship is not only two bodies or minds, but two vibrational fields. These fields interact long before words are spoken, long after they are forgotten. This is why healing one's inner world has such profound effects on outer experience. When a person resolves inner chaos, their resonance changes. They no longer attract the same lessons, the same patterns, the same partners who echo old wounds. The shift is often so dramatic that it appears miraculous, but it is not magic, it is resonance. A person who moves from self-rejection to self-acceptance will find that the world begins to mirror that change. Relationships become gentler, more authentic, less reactive, not because others have changed, but because the field in which others meet us has changed. There's a quiet truth in recognizing that we are always in dialogue with life, even in solitude. Our thoughts speak to the field, and the field responds. We think we are isolated in our struggles, but the very quality of our inner life shapes who comes into our orbit. If we are living in emotional scarcity, the field becomes attuned to scarcity. If we open to trust, the field begins to offer connection. This is why inner work is not a private endeavor. It is relational. Every step toward inner clarity changes the music we emit, and the world, hearing a new note, responds in kind. The law of resonance is not the law in the legal sense, but a principle of psychological reality. It explains why we keep meeting the same kinds of people until we change our inner frequency. It explains why certain people feel like home, even if they are strangers, and why others unsettle us without a word. It explains why love feels fated and betrayal feels inevitable. It is the silent architect behind the structure of our emotional lives. And once one begins to observe it, it becomes impossible to unsee. Every encounter becomes a reflection. Every reaction becomes a message. Every relationship becomes a mirror tuned to the inner vibration we emit, willingly or not. The more consciously we direct our attention, the more deliberate our resonance becomes. And in that awareness, we begin to shape the quality of our fate. In the end, life does not speak to us through accidents, but through resonance. The people we meet are never random. They are reflections of our inner world, responding to the silent frequency we carry within. Whether they bring joy or challenge, each encounter is a message from the deeper layers of the psyche, inviting us to grow, to see, and to integrate what lies beneath the surface. When we become aware of this profound law, we begin to walk through the world with a different kind of presence, not as victims of fate, but as participants in a meaningful unfolding. By attuning ourselves to what is unresolved within, we change the field around us, and in doing so, we begin to meet not only different people, but different versions of ourselves. Good luck on your journey inward and outward. May you attract what your soul truly needs. Thank you for listening.